I love myself a good spicy romantasy read. So in today's video I'm going to be talking about a few of my recent romantasy reads, which is like a combination of fantasy and romance, but let's face it, the main focus of these books is on the romance, in which I particularly enjoyed the vibe or the spice or both of them. So hello my fellow fantasy book lovers and welcome to my channel. My name is Kathy and I'm a goth girl from Belgium who loves to read fantasy books. The first book that I want to talk about is the only book that I don't own a physical copy of, but it is one of my recent favorite books, and it is Bride by Ayame Hazelwood. In Bride, we follow the female main character who is a vampire daughter of one of the important vampires of the community that she lives in, and she has been chosen as collateral to marry a werewolf alpha male. So she has to marry him to form an alliance between werewolves and vampires, and of course more happens in this book. And maybe the name Ayame Hazelwood rings a bell because she's actually a very active romance writer that has a lot of really highly appraised books in the romance genre, and this was her first book in the fantasy romance realm, and I think she nailed it. It has a very specific kink, the knotting kink, so if you don't know what it is, look it up before you start reading this book, because it is a rather important and big part of it. Specifically near the end of the book it gets mentioned a lot. In this book we follow the two main characters as there is a lot of forced proximity, they have to live together in the same house, etc. So a lot starts happening early on in the book as well. It comes back a few times. I really enjoyed it. And honestly, I think for the romantasy books that I've read this year, this one will, I feel, remain very high on the list. Up next are two books by Sarah Hawley, A Witch's Guide to Fake Dating a Demon, that I borrowed to a friend of mine because I think she would love it as well, and she does. And then the second one that I still have here is called A Demon's Guide to Wooing a Witch. In both books we have two main characters that we follow. In the chapters we alternate between one and the other, and of course a lot of spice happens in these books as well. They all take place in the same general area. So the female main character of the first book is the best friend of the female main character of the second book, and in the third one we follow another person that is also related to the two girls from the first books. Not specifically one of their best friends, but just someone that they work with, I believe. Anyhow, in the first book we follow a witch who accidentally summons a demon that is very attractive, and the demon falls in love with her and she wants to first get rid of him, and then of course they develop feelings and spice happens and it's all fun and games. And in the second book we follow a demon that has been cast out from the demon realm into the human world, where this girl in particular lives, and they end up together as well because he falls in love with her but doesn't remember everything from his past, so he doesn't remember that she actually kicked his ass in the previous book at the ending. So yeah, it's very fun. I found both of these books super fast reads. They're really light. It's really fast-paced, the spice is fun, so yeah, if you're looking into a lighter fantasy romance read. So I could really recommend Sarah Hawley's books. Up next we have books by Scarlet St Clair. The first book of this series is actually called A King of Battle and Blood, but again I borrowed it to another friend of mine who also wanted to get into spicy vampire romance books. This is the second one of that series and the third one is being written as we speak, and in this particular series we follow a vampire king who marries the daughter of the human king of a certain kingdom to form an alliance, and of course, yeah, spice starts happening and they fall in love. The first book I loved a lot more than the second one. In the first book you also have the build-up of their relationship and of the spice, and it goes gradually. In the second book it's full on from the start because they are already together, a lot has already happened between them. I felt the story a lot better in the first book, but the spice is very present in the second book as well. So if you're purely about the spice, then I think you will love the second book more than the first one, but I personally love when there is a little bit of plotline as well, so I enjoyed the first book of this series more. Now, Scarlet St Clair has also written the Hades x Persephone series, because one book is written from Persephone's perspective and the other one from Hades's. I like it, but I would have preferred if it was one book with two perspectives, alternating. That would have been better for me. Nonetheless, the books have very good spice, and if you like one of the two point of views more, I would maybe recommend just reading one of of them and not the two of them. So I think I will continue on just reading Hades' parts, because for me, I liked the vibe a little bit more. But that's personal preference, of course. And then finally, a book that I loved so much that I had to buy a physical hardcover version of it. It is 6 Scorched Roses by Carissa Broadbent. This book is set in the same realm as Serpent and the Wings of Night. However, this story will merge with the story from Serpent and the Wings of Night later on in the series, as I'm told. But in this book particular, you can really read it as a standalone. It does help if you've read Serpent and the Wings of Night beforehand, because you will know a little bit more about the world building. But in this book we follow a girl named Lilith. She lives with her sister in a village where there is a sort of curse that happened because her father tried to save her life some way. I'm not going to go into too much detail because it will explain itself in the book, and I don't want to spoil you because you don't know this at the start. But Lilith is actually someone who's gone to school to try and find a cure for the disease that has fallen on her village that makes that people actually like kind of fade away, vanish, go up into like dust, more or less. So to find a cure for this curse, she actually goes to the local vampire, as we're gonna call him. It's actually the only vampire in the surrounding area, and she goes to him with an offer that she will offer him 6 roses, so a rose for every time that he gives her blood, so she can do research on the blood. So Lilith goes to the local vampire who is called Vale, and of course they develop a sort of relationship over the course of time that Lilith goes to him to collect his blood. Now, this book is a little bit slower paced in terms of build-up of the relationship and of the spice, but I found it so worth it when it finally started happening. So this one is not as fantasy romance based as the other books, but I feel if you like vampires, then you will love this book. So these were my recent favorite romantasy or spicy fantasy romance books that I've read, and I feel like this genre is really underrated, but starting to gain in popularity amongst female readers mainly, and I am all for it. So if you have any recommendations based on these books that you think I might enjoy as well, I would love it if you would let me know in the comment section down below, because I'm always looking for more books to read. And of course, if you've read any of these books, feel free to share what you thought of it in a comment as well. Of course, feel free to give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and if you haven't already and you'd like to be, feel free to subscribe to my channel. I make new videos every week and I would love to have you for every single one of them. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you very soon with a new video. Bye!